It is episode 115, right?
Yep.
Yep. Hundy and 15.
There's no sexy number for 115.
Nope, there's absolutely nothing here. I got
But
nothing.
next episode will be 116, and we can do the entire episode over Reach record beats. Listen, I will do my whole pulls to the Andy Mineo Heroes for Sale album. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. All the chefs getting all the kisses. Triple or KB's Tomorrow We Rebel. Come on. Come on. So good.
Say my name.
Mm-mm. That is not a track in the
Yeah, I know
Reach Records
it's not
catalog.
off from that one, so oh well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. If that doesn't make it in, it's going to be unfortunate because only like three other people are going to get that joke.
Yeah, but Matt's one of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. We're getting a note for that one. I'm here
so
for it.
what it's now that I've played D&D, I've learned about inspiration points.
Yes.
And
Yeah, you're a nerd now. Congratulations.
and so like getting inspiration points for like doing something good. I'm like, "Hey,
Hmm.
my nerdy deep dive just got me praise. I'll cherish this forever."
And I can waste this when I'm about to face plant.
Yeah, and I've every inspiration point or bonus thing I've done has
Mm.
netted me nothing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
usually how that works.
so
Unfortunately, that's how this works here. I'll hide that. All right. All right, let's do this. I got this. I got it. I got it. I'm good. I got this. Greetings, valued poll listeners, and welcome to episode 115 of the Poll List Podcast, your bi weekly blast of comics, pop culture, and faith. I'm your host, Chris Poirier, and riding shotgun, as always, is the myth, the legend, the pastor of panels himself, Hector. Yeah, how about that? Huh?
I actually
Huh?
like the pastor panels.
Huh?
That's pretty
Ah.
fresh. I was about to
Ah.
say shoddy for your thoughty, but no, that's much better. Pastor panels.
I wrote new stuff. I wonder if anyone will
Look,
notice.
look at you, like being intentional and
I'm being
stuff with
I'm
your
being
life.
I'm being intentional. I can focus on things that bring me joy. Um, it's good. Yeah.
That's good. All right, all
Yeah.
right.
Passer of panels. You're welcome.
Yeah. It also sounds like you know, I lead prayer meetings at sheetrock conventions, but whatever. It's
I
cool.
mean,
It's cool.
it's cool. It's cool. It's good. It's good. It's cool. Yeah, so happy to see you. Glad that you're here. Glad that Nightcrawler could join us.
With his sassy red eye.
Yeah, I guess that I mean, we're good. That's a quorum, so we can continue.
I hate
Yes?
being on boards.
Oh, you're trying to multitask. That's not fair. We're podcasting here.
Oh no, I'm finishing.
Ah,
We're still in the
so
intro.
yeah, so what are we doing? Yeah, well, we're gonna crack open some long boxes, call out some hot
I just meant
takes.
because you mentioned quorum, not like I'm actually
Ah,
because
fine.
that's the only time I hear that term is
It-
board meetings.
right? No, that's fair. Uh, but yeah, yeah. Can I restart my new read? Is that
I'm
okay?
so
Is that
sorry.
appropriate?
I will not
Yeah,
interrupt you.
yeah.
Great. Here we go.
Yeah, so we're cracking open long boxes, calling out the hot takes, and diving headfirst into the stories that shape the culture we love. So buckle up, true believers, and prepare yourselves for we've got comic side.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better bring next on. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me Obi-Wan. Act like you know me, son.
Also, fake believers, you can leave now.
Yes, all fake believers, you are not welcome. I'm sorry.
You're just here for the Pokemon cards. We know it.
Did they all leave? Can we continue?
Fair enough.
All
That one
right.
guy.
Great. We heard the door close. On today's episode of The Pull List, we've got a stacked show lined up for you. We're breaking down the latest comic book news you need to know, dropping our must pulls from the past 2 weeks or 3, or whatever our comic shop could deliver to us, spotlighting our favorite new number ones and diving into even more of that nerdy goodness. So maybe the Pokemon guy can come on back. That's fine.
But we're charging you triple for your
Yeah,
cards,
you've got
which
to
is
pay
what
extra.
happens at every single comic book shop right now.
Yep, there you go. This is the Pull List Podcast. And we've got news. Yep, nope, seriously, we've got news. And I'm not going to start with the thing that you all think I'm going to start with, because no. Yes, there's diamond news. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it. But actually, Hector brought something to my attention, and I kind of was like, why is this a thing? And then I started reading all the stories attached to it, and I was like, really? And so Scott MacFarlane, like he owns this magnificent action figure company.
Todd MacFarlane?
Yeah, that guy. Sorry. Wow, where's my brain today? It's over there somewhere.
It's focused on the joy, apparently, but
Yeah, I was so happy with everything that I dumped, like, sorry, Todd. We know you listen, and I'm sorry. Okay, we're covered. Good. He was probably staring
he was
at a
the one guy that left with the Pokemon cards, actually.
Right, and he's probably still staring at a baseball and still kind of disappointed over not being able to buy Diamond, but we'll get to that. Anyway, a line of his DC toys is going to be discontinued next year, and they were kind of hitting the final push of a bunch of them, and the latest one was a Supergirl based on the Supergirl from Woman of Tomorrow series, and literally all of them vanished, stolen, disappeared, poofed, fell into a black hole, multiverse. I don't know.
They're in that dumpster with all the ET cartridges from 1982.
They're all sitting next to each other. But seriously, like, they had to contact, I think Walmart was the first company that was supposed to get them all, or it was a Walmart exclusive, something like that. They all gone. Which means that one dude that's probably got like one, or got one like pre-release, is like, it is now the one. And it's that ET cartridge.
That also means if you try and sell a Supergirl figure, you're going to get arrested by the FBI.
So many cops are going to show up. And I don't know what that conversation looks like, but I have to imagine that phone call to somebody was probably not a fun phone call for anybody involved. Because I'm not sure.
All of them.
Right. Run that by me one more time. Pretend I'm like 4 and explain it to me like I'm 4. Trailer gone. No more. No toys. Nope. Don't like it any better that way. They're all gone. Yeah. So, as most of the articles point out, shocking, if you see a bunch of these online,
they're all going to end up at a Comic-Con in Florence, South Carolina. And I'm not saying that city for any specific reason.
So yeah, be wary of some of them literally hot Supergirl toys, because that happened. Let's talk about the one thing that everybody wants to talk about right now.
What would that be?
Tariffs.
No,
that's actually not what any of us want to talk about. And frankly, I have a lot of friends in the tabletop industry, which their version of the tariff conversation is like way more painful than the comic book conversation, because most of their product comes out of China. Don't preach at me or anyone else. China just has become the place that tabletop games have been produced well, and at a cost that game companies can actually get them to people. And getting slapped with any percent over 100% going into the summer is like completely undoing their existence. And a handful of companies have already basically said, well, we're gonna not exist tomorrow. So that stinks. In comics, there's weird stuff going on, because some people pointed out that printed materials such as books and other things apparently are not included in the current tariff lists and everything.
So if electronics aren't and books aren't, what is?
Right? Unfortunately, apparently it's tabletop games. And that's silly and dumb and unfortunate. But DC Comics still looked at that whole thing and went, well, that's silly. So we're going to run a anti-tariff, which is equivalent to what the tariff was going to be on inbound on all of their graphic novels, so that basically more people, more more shops and more direct market folks will pick up their stuff and actually sell it this summer. So clever,
Yeah,
smart.
it's not the worst idea.
It's not the worst idea. It gets you some advertising and a mention on a podcast.
That
And
Todd McFarlane listens to while he's waiting for Pokemon cards.
absolutely. Thanks, Scott. Todd.
Todd doesn't know.
So good. The next one I know less about, but you sent my way, and I think it's because you share a love here. So tell me a little bit about this Captain Planet stuff.
Well, they're doing a Captain Planet reboot. I want to say comic for the next I want to say it's the 25 or 30 year. No, it's got to be even older than that. Like 35 year anniversary.
Might
Whatever
be
it is.
even. Hold on. I'll read. Keep talking.
But it's upcoming anniversary of Captain Planet. But one of the cool things is when they're dropping it, and it's like a haggard, sexy Captain Planet with a beard. Because that's great. It's what we definitely needed. Right next to a chiseled Barney. But
I'd read that.
you'd read chiseled Barney.
25, premiering in September of 90.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think I did that math right. No, 35.
35. Yeah. I was about to say I could remember my
I was like, I can math. No.
I just remember my school grade. Like I remember sitting in like second grade singing the theme song. So, yeah, the 35th anniversary of Captain Planet. And the cool thing is the comic book issue number one, and I believe all of that series is going to be printed on 75%.
There is definitely, I don't know if the article actually says, but it is going to be done on recycled papers.
So it'll be, I want to say it was either between 75 and 90% recycled materials. There'll be some special variants because there always are, but like you can buy a comic
And
and
save the planet.
save the planet because you need another superhero that's powered by rings and can easily sell you merchandise
Yes. And to that point,
and is also dressed like the kids from the Burger King commercials from the 90s.
ooh, I like it. Um, but more specifically, if anyone's been listening to our show for any length of time and a really good IP suddenly gets republished, what company's publishing it?
IDW?
No, Dynamite.
Oh, excuse me.
How dare you? We will talk about something that IDW has done later, and next, which is probably going to upset people, but we can have that conversation here in a minute. But no, Dynamite continues their high. We've seen that you like Saturday morning cartoons and after school specials, so comics. And they are laughing all the way to the bank every time they do that. So
I know this isn't comics and it's not in your news, but I just wanted to comment on this.
fine.
Did you see that Jay and Silent Bob are in Call of Duty?
Yes,
I thought of you. But that's all. Okay, carry on.
I know. But at the same time, I kind of hate that Call of Duty's like the new Fortnite and not in a good way. But that
It's
is
the
fun.
more expensive Fortnite.
Way more. But hey, you can drop back into Verdansk.
Buddy, nobody's playing that game.
Yeah, it's true. I actually haven't been, but that's a different story.
I was about to say you're not even playing that game. Get out of here, you poser.
I tried and it made me angry. So yeah, IDW. IDW's been trying to figure out how to reshuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic for at least the last 5 years, arguably the last 10 years, to keep that thing afloat and figure out how to make people money so that they can keep making comics that people read that aren't turtle books. And
Wake up, you need to make money. Yeah.
yeah, so they're trying something that's a little different for the comic book industry. They have signed a test agreement with Webtoon, and they are going to republish a handful of their catalog in an attempt to reach people that they believe are outside their current readership.
Not the dumbest idea.
It's an interesting idea to say the very least. Like I said, it's kind of counterintuitive based on what a lot of the other folks have done of either spending a great deal of money to create their own digital distribution platforms that ultimately still not that many people use. Um, some people have looked at Webtoons and gone, "Oh no, they stole our job" and all that kind of stuff. But it's always actually fed as like Olympus lore doesn't exist in print without it.
Right.
Or
And
Olympus.
solo leveling.
Solo leveling is through there as well. There was a question mark at the end of that statement.
Yeah.
So they are going to revisit Godzilla, Unnatural Disasters, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and They Called Us Enemy, George Takei's memoir. So, and their goal is to put it in front of an audience that is not currently their audience, because they know that there are some people that are just going to that place to read web stuff. And web stuff is kind of becoming more consolidated. Like Webtoon is like crushing it. Good, bad, and different. They're kind of one of the sole proprietors of that type of thing. So I'm actually kind of curious how that's going to go. And by the next show, I should probably have 17 articles on why every retailer think it's a stab in the back and this, that, and the other thing. But I kind of agree that we might be approaching the Napster problem of that's not really a problem. That is a new avenue to acquire customers that will still buy your stuff. I don't know the answer, but I think that's the theory, is to get stuff in front of people that wouldn't normally be their audience and still be able to distribute it. And given we're in an environment that is more and more digital, I feel like that's fair, right? Like we have to come to terms with the fact that people are going to read stuff different ways. And if we want the medium to exist, is the medium physical or is it the creative story that you're trying to tell through sequential art?
Well, and I have friends who got on the Lore Olympus on Webtoon that had never read a comic book in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And have since spent boatloads on volumes and different things of that nature because they started out on a Webtoon. Now, personally, I've not found a Webtoon I've rocked with yet. Because I only intentionally read on Webtoon just because they released a Red Hood and the Outlaws story, and that
Because
was
you were
good.
forced to.
Yeah, and that was a good thing. It was a good story, but like
It happened.
realistically, if I got busy
Yeah.
or distracted, I forgot about it, and I would go months at a time. Um,
Yeah, the
before
ADHD worked in the other way,
well, it's the same reason I don't read the Bible app.
right?
I just don't touch it because for me, um, I'm too distracted by my phone with all the other stuff going on it to use it as a focused time of scriptural intention. So does not work for me in that capacity. That's just
That makes sense.
that's just me though.
That's just you. So that's a thing. That's happening. And finally, I guess I got to talk about Diamond because Diamond reasons.
hmm By the way, I want to mention this because it makes me think of it every time they you say diamond because now I have to deal with diamond a lot more often. The community college I work at, um, they voted to have. They've never had a mascot. They voted to make the mascot the Eagles.
Okay.
The early college that's associated with it also is the Eagles, and so like you know what, let's just combine this. But we're also starting a baseball team for the first time ever.
Right.
Um,
I remember you mentioning that
and
because Wikipedia doesn't like you.
yeah, oh yeah, I remember that.
I was there.
And
That happened.
yep, that was the thing. But because of that, there's another Eagles in our baseball conference. So
Mm.
now they have to change the name. But they still want to stick with what they were planning. So now my college is going to be the Diamond Eagles, which makes them sound like uh aviary.
Royalty?
I was thinking more of burlesque dancers, but like
It's Diamond
no, no,
Select.
no, dude,
Diamond
birdlesque,
Select. Oh
birdlesque dance.
no.
Yeah,
Penguin approves.
Penguin approved. That's what all the dancers are at the Iceberg Clown. They're birdlesque.
I feel like we should just end it there.
That's the whole podcast. Comics suck. Bye.
That's the whole podcast. I can't possibly do better than Birdlesque. I gave you Pastor of Panels, but you gave me Birdlesque, and I've got nothing. I'm
That
out.
sounds like a complaint. Listen, I got into this and all I got from you was burlesque.
1 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend.
Stuck with this for the rest of my life.
Okay. Well, I don't need to belabor what's going on. Diamond basically sued, or Alliance sued everybody else for challenging their win at the um look, Alliance is going to get to buy Diamond unless somebody sues somebody else again for a different reason. I believe the money was increased because of the contracts that came up in question from Image and everyone else, and them basically being like, "Hold up, wait, you can't just sell something of value and not pay me for it." Um, so it would appear that some more money changed hands, and it at this moment, at this very moment in time, the time that I, Chris, am recording this with that guy Hector, um, apparently Alliance is actually going to stick with their acquisition. Some judge said that. Like I said, by next time it could change again because it's just been that way. So about the time we start getting stuff that says something new on the box, or it says Diamond, a subsidiary of whoever, we'll know what's actually going on out there. Because that's how it be right now, which is why a lot of comic book shops are just like, make up your mind. Like, this hurts. Make it stop. Um, yeah. Comic books just be that way sometimes. And here's the thing is, for a lot of folks that have been around for a minute, and when I say a minute, I mean 30, 40 more years, they're like, yeah, this is kind of the cigarette's still in their mouth. They're like, yeah, this is kind of how this goes. And they're not losing sleep yet, but
You can smell the regret and the nicotine on your books.
right. And neither of those things are good. But stuff's happening. The industry moves on. Keep going to your local shops. Like I need to reiterate again that what is hurting right now is people aren't picking up books, and because of the weird distribution schedules and some of the smaller shops having to get things from different places and it costing money different than it used to, it's hurting a lot of the smaller shops. And people always ask, how can you help the comic book industry? And even with the tariff thing going on, and it applies with game developers and tabletop as well, is go to your friendly local game store, go to your friendly neighborhood comic shop and buy stuff. Like, I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying that. I'm saying that's how you support small business, is you buy stuff. I get stuff that's hard, but these are the things that we love, and we should put our money where we love. Like supporting owlbears and the conservation of them.
And rating this podcast 8 stars.
8 out of 5 stars.
8 out of 5 stars and 4 dentists out of 3.
Crushed it. Well, that's your bi-weekly dose of insider comic industry goodness. Everything you need to know to stay in the know. As always, you can jump into the conversation with Hector and I and all of your fellow nerdy friends sometimes over on the Love Thy Nerd Discord. Share what you loved, what drove you nuts, or even what we completely missed, because 2 weeks is a lot of time. 2 times is a lot of weeks. Whatever.
And neither of us have actually been on top of our polls of like what's brand new and actually out in forever. Sorry.
Don't tell the people. That's podcast magic. Um, Look, your geeky adventure starts here, and we want to go on that journey with you. So it continues out into the ether of the internet because that's what the digits and digital things are for, I think.
Sort of.
Probably. So let's talk about some comic books. After we just said there basically aren't any, let's do the thing and talk about the things that made it into our piles because we are loyal and dedicated podcasting hosts. And I still spent $75 for 2 weeks worth of comics. So there has to be something in it, right?
Well, I'm gonna say
Right.
this. Well, you sent me the message about because you're in the process of like doing some organization,
Mm.
and you mentioned how many comics you had acquired.
Over the
Um,
last 6 years, yes.
so what's that look like?
So I am in the process of relocating from the South to the Great White North. And so by doing that, I've been looking through all my things that I don't want to move, which is most of the comic books I read for all of you. um, I don't hold on to runs as much as I used to anymore. I'm a key collector because that takes up less space. um, and on my rough comic book math, which is based on long boxes, I am somewhere in the vicinity of 2,500 comics in the last 6 years, which I think if I do the math on that, um, plays out to.
Oh, we don't need math numbers. Math makes us sad.
Oh no, this is great because it's interesting. It means that roughly I purchased 8 comic books a week. Now I don't normally buy them per week. I usually buy them every other week so that I line up with the schedule for this. Sorry, I have removed the veil, but I usually have to cram comic books in to catch up more so than.
I got off work today, and I got to my house at 5, and I read comics until I put these headphones on. And
That's how this life be, but we're here for you.
but you were like, "Hey, if you get ready early," I'm like, "Heifer, I'm 3 books deep."
He said no. But here's the good news, or bad news of that means that on average, I pick up 16 books to figure out five to mention to you.
I was gonna say just in the since the last podcast, I've picked up 20 books, and not only did I struggle to pick my pulls, I struggled to enjoy 6 of them. Now,
Mm.
hold on. I didn't struggle to enjoy 6, but there were only 6 out of 20 that I did enjoy actually in the aftermath of reading. And on that note, though, these are the books that are just in my pulls rotating. Like, I didn't go pick out new stuff because I haven't managed to make it to my comic book shop in over 6 weeks, maybe 2 months.
OMG.
So, and my comic book shop closes at 5 most days, 6 on Wednesdays,
Hmm.
and I have to do church work on Wednesdays now. Um, and I'm working my other jobs, and like my comic book shop's an hour away. So,
So
like,
looking into the future, part of my relocation, there is no comic shop within an hour and a half. I I'm going to a comic book desert, and I got to figure that out. Also means Chris has some goals over the next 5 years.
what are
Uh,
those goals?
oh, I don't know. Might have something to do with there not being a comic book.
Hmm.
um, in a place that literally has comic book history, and that just makes me sad. My hometown has been featured in 4 comic books.
Oh, like the one you sent today? Oh no, not that was
No,
a different
no,
thing.
no. We're going to talk about that in a moment. No, my home where I'm going to, Rutland, Vermont, is the home of one of the longest and oldest Halloween parades. That Halloween parade was started by a local journalist who was friends with all of the people at DC and Marvel Comics. And they used to come up from New York City in the fall to stare at the pretty leaves and to hang out at this cool parade dressed up as Batman, Superman, X-Men's. And there is a copy of an Avengers book that actually shows that parade. There's a Detective Comics that shows that parade, and I think there's one or two others that feature the parade and my hometown in it. And there is not a single comic book shop there.
As it tracks.
Yeah, comic books are weird that way, but also it's really kind of a fun history. So I'm looking forward to hopefully drawing that back out. So tell us about the books that were less bad to you this
Now
week.
there were some good and there were some impressive.
Ooh, you used the
And
word
I
impressive.
did use impressive. Um, and I'm gonna start off by saying Absolute Wonder Woman did not make the cut. I've
Didn't
been
you kind of feel like that was going to happen? Like you were heading in that way,
well,
that book was.
they finished a arc strong. And then what you do the next go round is the hard part. Now,
Mm, mm,
but what was
mm.
fun was surprisingly Wonder Woman 20. You didn't see this one yet, did you?
Nope.
Um, this one is straight up. It starts off like an acid trip,
That's usually a good start.
but check this out.
Ew.
It starts off like an acid trip as Wonder Woman's having a conversation with a goat while she's doing squats, lifting. Like, take a look at the power lift move. But it's like a fever dream because Wonder Woman is being approached by her mother
Okay.
because Wonder Woman's mom woke up with a dead Ares in her bed.
That doesn't belong there.
Yeah. Um, um, there's a line too that was actually pretty funny. Um, Diana, I'm having a problem. Yes, mother. Um, I woke up this morning and there was someone in my bed, and Wonder Woman says, "Congratulations." I was like, "Oh, hey, don't, hey,
Oh,
mom."
wow. Zero chill there.
Um, but yeah. So she's talking to Diana, and basically Diana grabs Batman, and they go to Themyscira to solve the murder of her mother's lover, or not mother's lover, but and it's a straight up great. But I mean, I'm telling you, the color scheme. Look at this stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
the color scheme is gorgeous. Um,
Art
you,
just pops.
art, yeah, art just as pop. But like you've got, look, dude, this is Watchmen level coloring.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
and it's also the Watchmen 9 panel, but go on.
yeah, and it is the Watchmen 9 panel. I had that thought too. Um, and some of them are just burns. Some of it is just Diana and Bruce talking. Um, but they
Tom
basically,
King, it's still Tom King, right?
yeah, it is. And
So
like,
Tom King really likes that 9 panel for like introspection or like I think Heroes in Crisis, he did that a lot when people were either introspection or they were talking between two people on semi-serious stuff. Like this is a thing.
so they are literally going around, but they make a deal with Zeus, um, that they'll solve the murder within 24 hours, or they can have Bruce as a burnt sacrifice.
Yo.
Yeah, and Bruce made that offer. And
Bruce
so
is
that,
like, yeah, okay.
but they're literally
Greatest detective.
going around doing good cop, bad cop, and Diana's the bad cop.
D-
She's like beating demigods senseless and stuff. Um,
and Bruce is like, don't, okay.
yeah, that's literally what's happening. But but then they have to go question Aphrodite,
Hmm.
and Aphrodite sees Bruce, and she's like, my, aren't you pretty?" And she just goes up and takes,
Guess it's guess it's a good thing Nightwing didn't come on this party.
yeah, and she goes up and just takes his mask off and starts kissing him, and slowly over 12 panels. Um,
Ew.
and she says, "Aren't you married?" Um, and she's like, "Why does that surprise you?" But like literally, like this is the whole like close enough to see you breathe, kisses and stuff.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
And like Batman actually lingers walking away from Aphrodite. She's like, "Why must all men be men?" But then also, Zeus feels like they're getting a little bit too close, so he straight like hits Bruce with a lightning bolt and rotisserie fries him.
Hmm.
Um, but it's honestly a dope. Um, it's a dope fate. It's a dope like thing just as a procedural crime investigation. But guess what? We get the return of.
The Mac.
Yes, always the Mac. His faith conversation from Batman 54.
Oh.
Um, as he
Oh.
in the pretty pink panels.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Diana's just kind of depressed, and she says, "Just keep driving." He says, "The road dead ends in a mile. Keep driving means driving to the Gotham River." And she says, "You have faith or you don't." Um, and he says, "Your gods aren't my gods." Um, and she says, "Yes." And what church does the Batman attend? And he says, "God isn't in a church." And like it goes on, but then you get to the end of the book after he's been rotisseried. Um,
What?
yeah,
Everyone's going to be back to he's totally an atheist after this, but
oh,
okay.
but wait, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he says God's not in a church; he's in an alley. Which you can take that all over the place. Um,
Oh, dang.
right, right. So this book was good on its own, but when you start throwing the Jesus into the mix, I'm like insta pick. Um,
Pastor of
Panels, yeah,
panels.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, but they get down to it. And then can he says, "Can I tell you a secret? You asked me about God. I lied. He isn't in the alley. He's he says I wasn't raised much with much religion, but I felt as a boy there was something good above us. And then my parents, they were so kind. They died. And while I watched, what kind of God would do that? I knew there's nothing above us but sky. But then I met you, and you were kind like my mother and father come again. Diana, after knowing you, I went home and looked up and I prayed."
Oh.
And it's just like that's the most outside of the pastor burning church thing,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
this is the most Jesus sprinkled into a Batman storyline in a minute. So
I'm
instant
sorry.
pick.
That almost like proves to me that Tom King absolutely knows what he's doing on that.
Oh, he
He
does.
he keeps telling people, I don't know, what does it mean? But I'm like, no, bro.
Yeah, no. Listen, Tom King willfully accepted Faith and Fame in book 5. Get out of here. You do you
Everyone's like, no, it's not possible.
do you know how many other writers would have like chucked it and he still had it with him by the time the show ended?
Actually,
Actually, yeah, no, yeah. So
fascinating. Oh, I love it.
so that one alone is worth picking up. I'll pick up multiple copies of that just for
Future Faith and Fandom chapter inbound.
man, I hope not. I'm a tight squeeze away from finishing book 10 and I'm just be like be done, maybe done. I'm always saying that.
Yeah, I
Um
was gonna say, which book says the there's
the
a couple books that are literally titled the one after the last one or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's
I believe you.
what comic book did you enjoy,
All
Christopher?
right. So it's a gimmick, but it's a fun gimmick, and I liked it the first time, and it's a really fun callback. But I'm going to say something that I really doubt anyone in a million years would bet I would put on any of my lists.
A police
And
procedural?
no, that was like serious, not
Oh,
sarcasm.
okay, okay.
But also yes. But also no. G.I. Joe, a real American hero, but you need to come all the way up to the top here and where it says silent missions. And so this one is of spirit, but education first, comic book second. G.I. Joe 21 was featured what is known as the original now, or the silent mission, and it was Snake Eyes, where the entire book was a story that there is not a single word of dialogue, direction, anything in the entire thing. We
I've
are now
enjoyed
going
those. Yeah.
we are now going to get a series of silent missions featuring most of the primary main characters of GI Joe over the next month and a half.
Nice.
These are fun because it literally comes to, let's talk about comic books, and that a story can progress just based on panels, where they lie, how the panels are laid out. See all this white space between these things? Do we know what those are called? They have a name. Ha! It's Education Day. So comic book panels are the things that have art and colors and pencils and all that good stuff. The white space, or the space between the panels, are called gutters. And could I tell you why they're called gutters? No, because I'm probably really bad at like doing tons of extra history. But what's cool is a lot of comic book artists and creative designers and editors will tell you is the space between panels, or the gutters, is the space that the reader interjects the story. Because the artist is leading us from panel to panel, the writer is leading us through dialogue and through other things along this journey, and then there's that space of we have to turn the page. There are things that aren't connected, and we all know that story occurs even in the gutter. And I love, that's what actually made me really fall in love with sequential art and comic books in general and everything. Is there's a story being told here. There is an artistic team, a creative team that has an intention in telling a very specific story when they write a book, right? But there's still a lot of space for that gray matter between our ears to interject a lot of stuff based on the information that we've been provided. So much like reading a regular book that doesn't have pictures in it, we're still part of the journey and part of the creative process. And I'm probably a gigantic nerd because that's freaking awesome. So I just put this on the list because I was like, I love that A, they're throwing back to when they were the first to do it. And B, that it's now a thing and they're going to kind of do it for a little bit as a special to get people back into reading G.I. Joe. And a lot of the art through most of the silent missions that I've seen looks awesome. So if you even remotely love G.I. Joe or just want to see something that's kind of cool in terms of comic booky stuff, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, just look for the thing up there that says silent mission.
Well, I mean, and realistically, and I'm sure you get this way too, like, say, like how I was burning through comics to read today. Um, there gets to a point where you know a story is not getting you, and you finish it not by reading all the dialogue.
Yeah. No, if I'm scanning new books that don't grab me early, I usually am flipping 2 or 3 pages at a time to be like, is something going to grab me to make me stop and reread? Because if I have to get through 20 to 30 books to pare it down, it means at times I am not reading all of the things.
Well, it's like you'll start losing me if it's lame. And you have to actually do that. So,
Yep.
all right, what's next? Let's do this.
Yeah, tell me a story.
Um, do this, right? Hard. Because Chris doesn't know what I'm doing yet because I didn't have time to type all this stuff in.
I don't have notes this time, so he's completely just throwing things at me.
It's not Star Wars. That's the back. It's Fantastic Four.
That can't be right. Do it
Right.
again.
Flip it again. There's got to be something on the
Flip
other
it again.
side. Flip it again.
Nope. I don't believe you.
This takes place after One World Under Doom #2. But basically at the beginning of the book, it's exactly not false advertising, like
Okay.
how we've complained about with comic covers before.
Fair.
Doctor Doom de-rockifies Ben. And not
Oh,
like
dang.
and not like this is a gimmicky one-shot thing.
Right.
He's out. He's normal, he's human, and he is struggling with it, not just because the whole change thing, but because he's weak now.
Yeah.
Somebody pulls a gun on him and Alicia.
Yeah, nothing good happens. Like he can't just stand there anymore.
And so he jumped in front of her, grabbed the butt of the barrel of the gun, like he was going to stop the bullet and crush it, and got his hand shot through, and almost got Alicia killed. And then so he then is just struggling with it so bad that he goes to her father. And I don't know if how much you know about the Alicia's father, Alicia Masters' father, in Marvel storylines. He's like the puppet master, something like that.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, that does sound familiar.
But he can take a clay model of someone and change them. Like he can change what they're feeling, what they're doing, what they're experiencing by making a clay model of them. Uh, so Ben goes to visit Alicia's dad in prison and has him manipulate a model of him to make it look like he's happy, so that he'll stop crying in front of the kids and stop just struggling with his depression. The book doesn't have a resolution. They're not like a happy zinger comedy ending of, hey, we fixed all our problems. It's like, my whole world's been shaken and I'm really struggling with my life. The end. See you next month.
Durr.
Which
Right in the feels.
which is really strong and meaningful.
Yeah, very
Uh
good.
like I was
Her
like,
stepfather is the puppet master.
yeah. And so like this was like, oh, I didn't expect this to be emotionally moving. Good job. And
Tear.
like and just watching him struggle with depression throughout the whole book was like, because they de-rock fine page one, I think.
Dang.
So it's not
Just
even like a
just
build.
dove right into that one, huh?
Yeah, but I think the lead up was in One World Under Doom. But
Got
yeah,
you.
this was a baller. So this was Fantastic Four number 30.
All right. I feel like I do this every time Marvel does this.
You do
Every I do. And
concretely.
I wish I had a good reason why. I think I know why.
It's
But
hope.
it is don't give me hope.
Yeah, it's that.
Um
It's you wanting hope.
Amazing Spider-Man has gone back to number 1 again. Um but look at that double cover.
Listen, if people will take back their exes every time they say they think they change, then they can keep selling nerds comic books by naming it number one.
But look at the but look at it. He fights Rhino again, like right in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
It's just Peter Parker again. Like it's kind of dropping us in the middle of a story again, per the usual. But Peter's basically looking for work because his company's gone over under. He was working at Oscorp again. That's not worked out, but he's actually friends with Norman ish. They're kind of frenemies because he knows he's the goblin and all that. And that's kind of where this story picks up is Peter's looking for a new job with literally spectacular failure behind him and everyone being like, "You're really smart, but you're also kind of dumb." Um, but then still being like Spider-Man, Spider-Man and doing all the cool stuff. And the art's really good and I'm like, "Cool. I really want to enjoy this." And they did kind of like a two issues in one type thing here. And the second one was Norman was going to retire, hand the company off, and walk away. And literally, someone tries to attack him at a press conference. And he's like, "No, you know what? A friend of mine recently said that I shouldn't, I should basically, oh, I'm going to say the line because they definitely wrote this on purpose. And I think I know what they were going for, but I don't know if it fully landed, but let me see if I can find it. Ah, yes. But a friend recently reminded me that those who have abused great power, if given the chance, have a responsibility to make amends. And he walks out of the press conference and is like, I'm going to go fix Oscorp. But he's still the goblin.
Right.
So good times. Um, it felt like Spider-Man again, but I know they're going to mess it up in the next issue because literally every time I pick this up, I go, "Hey, that's Peter." And then by the second issue, they're like, "Just kidding. We had Romita Jr. come back and do that art." So you would go, "Wow, that's Spider-Man." And here's the new team.
As Dwight Schrute stated, nostalgia is one of the greatest human weaknesses.
But if you want to feel good for like the 15 minutes, just really good. It's pretty. Double cover.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
All right. Um. Let's see. What do we got here? I think this is what I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this for sheer style alone.
Mm, mhm,
Um,
mhm, 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 mhm,
Batman
mhm,
and Robin.
mhm, mhm.
Uh, this one, and I have beef with this one as much as I have praise for this one.
Uh,
When it gets down to things, because who I get who wrote this, but I'm happy with the direction, and I feel like the editorial made a huge screw up with this, and but all as much as I really liked it. So here we go. This is visual, so check this out. Um, Through this story for a while now, part of Damien's character arc has been he's been reading Thomas Wayne's journals,
okay.
and so the book opens up.
Oh, okay. So it's literally the journals and sketches and
It's
like
so you've got
random.
Thomas's journal where he's feeling insecurity about his parenting and stuff like that and all this jazz. So, like the book opens with that, and then in the previous issue, Damien was kidnapped by Memento, or yeah, Memento, and so the whole Bat family, including the Signal, who still exists, guys, um, is like looking for Damien, and Bruce uncovers one of Damien's journals, and so you spend half the book. Check this out, going through Damien's journal.
Oh no.
And but look at this. Damien's journal is very color pencil and all of these things. Now here's where my beef is. This exact book, Batman and Robin, is the one that laid the foundation that Damien reads manga.
And it wasn't done in that style.
It is not done in manga at all. It's done in I'm trying to be Dustin to win, but I can't afford Dustin to win because he's beefing with Marvel right now. So I'm gonna give a dude color pencils. Um, and the entire thing is done
So
like
good.
like
Because
somebody.
I was thinking at the beginning of this about Dustin because yeah. And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Go moving right along.
so, but look, the entire thing is done like somebody's doing a Diary of a Wimpy Kid,
Which is not anime or
which is not
manga or
anime.
any of that.
So, Damien's story should have been done in manga
Mm.
per
Mhm.
character, and B,
It'd
you
be
sh-
really dope if right in the middle when it switched to that it also switched directions
that you had to actually go to the end and read
and then
forward.
read backwards. Yeah. That would
So,
have been great.
DC editorial, who edited this? Who put their stamp on this shenanigans? Because I want to talk to you.
Because that is a gimmick that absolutely would have played.
That would have played, and also
Because
they bring
you
back Dead
do it,
Alfred again.
it's slightly better than dragging your dead mother through the desert in a coffin, but
Ayo.
nailed it.
$5
Count it.
just went to a charity for mothers.
Yeah, count it. But you make that transition at the staple, so page 16, so that you can actually flip to the back and move forward. Like you absolutely could have done that. Like none of that's hard.
All right, editorial. Here we go.
Uh-uh.
Um,
We're about to make frenemies with someone that doesn't know us.
cover.
At least
Writer,
I hope it's not someone I know.
artist, colorist. I don't even list the editor. You know why? Because you messed up, Ron.
You done
Um,
messed up now.
so hear me. You had this was good to read, but you had a great opportunity and you missed it. That's
Wing and
just
a miss.
so close. When I
But
saw
also
When I saw the Thomas's Journal, I was like, oh snap, they're gonna switch to manga halfway through this thing. It's gonna be dope. And then I got Wimpy Kid, and I'm like, man, and it was still cute. The idea stuck, but man, it would have been so much better if they'd done a manga. But okay, that's three of mine down. Hit it.
All right. My next one probably comes as absolutely no shock to everyone. Ghost Machine continues to crush it. Redcoat is doing its first first unnamed crossover. The Northerner, which I mentioned last time, that guy was featured in Junkyard Joe #6. So he is now time hopping to help correct parts of the history of America. And Simon Pure is still, well, not dying. So Simon's going forward through time and not dying. And the Northerner kind of bamps into literally the end of the Civil War and hence have to figure out how to make this nonsense work out. But at least in this issue, it's a two-parter. Simon is a courier for the Confederacy, and well, the Northerner is, well, not.
Okay.
By the end of this, they come together, and he's basically like, "Look, dude, like, we got to figure this out. It's up to us to figure this all out." But I'm just gonna say that as I pick up this book and I see, oh, July 16th, 1864, big old stars and bars, and I flip the page and I hit a 2-page spread, and right there it says in Columbus, Georgia, which is where Chris currently sits. And I go, uh-oh.
Yes.
um, uh, Columbus, Georgia is known as the last official battle of the Civil War, and apparently that is Googleable, and they're going to talk about it a little bit. They didn't go super heavy in the first one because they needed to get the Northerner into Georgia to get with Simon to talk about the fact that they need to figure this out. But when the Northerner shows up, he's from the future and he's got like Glocks and he runs into a bunch of people and he's like, and he just kills a bunch of people. And a local's like, what the heck are those guns? And he's like, don't worry about that. So the alternate history stuff here is just kind of crazy. And Chris did not expect to read Columbus, Georgia in a comic book.
See his hometown.
See this town that I currently occupy in. But
Why won't you call it your hometown, Chris?
it's not home. I'm not from here.
Okay.
I live here.
Sure, kid.
Look, the locals won't even let me call it the hometown, so it just be that way. You're not from here, you're not from here. I got friends that have lived here for over 30 years, and they're like, yeah, people still say I'm not from here. And I'm like, bro.
All right. My last standard pull of the day.
Standard, the last regular poll, such that it were.
And this one surprised me, is Black Canary Best of the Best #5.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't see this one coming just because I've literally dredged through the previous 4 books. And because it literally is like just watching Shiva and Black Canary beat the Jesus out of each other with some backstory.
I mean, sometimes that's just how it be.
But the wrestling or the fight commentators start waxing eloquently about spiritual things, and it gets really funny.
DC just pulled your card this week, is what you're
They
saying.
pulled my card, but guess who wrote this one too?
Same person?
Yeah.
See, I don't think that there's no such thing as a coincidence.
So Tom King doing his "Let's talk about Jesus when we're not talking about Jesus" thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to read you 1 page of dialogue. Okay, it's just little panels. Ready?
Okay.
This is on page is Black Canary talking with her mom,
Okay.
but no words. The dialogue is describing what Shiva and Canary are doing in the ring.
Okay.
So the text isn't matching on purpose.
Got it.
So here's what it says. Both women torn down to their very soul, still standing, still punching. The back and forth count continues relentless without mercy. You talked about religion earlier, John. I want to say that to me, this is my religion. This is my church, my steeple, and side are the glorious people. This he says this is about the limits of a person can endure, possibly endure the edges of any man or any woman. And to me, that's where you find transcendent divine. Because what is God if not the space between where we think we end and where we actually do end? The far blue sky we can assume we can never reach, that we find ourselves sublimely soaring through. There, beyond the woeful walls that dare define us, there is our Creator. There is our creation. There, my beloved, there, my beloved, there, my good and beloved friend. There is our salvation. And it's just like, first of all, you got to read that like with Jim Ross voice in your head. There, my beloved. Got to do that in your head. But honestly, it's just like this one panel was just too pretty to be what it was. Because like literally, it talks about Shiva and Black Canary battling. But this is, if you look at the panel, it's got Dinah removing her wig so she can sit next to her mother without encumberment and actually get close to her. And then the rest of the book is about her mom dying of cancer
Duh.
while she's getting like suplexed by Shiva. So like it got way deeper than I anticipated. And I was just like, didn't see this one being on my list ever. But it was fun.
But here we are.
Here we are. What's your fourth one there, Chief?
All right. Resurrection Man Quantum Karma Black Label. How much do you know about Resurrection Man?
I knew 52.
Yeah, so I was pretty lacking on it, but they catch you up real quick.
Okay.
Basically, Resurrection Man, I can't. It's not fair to say that he doesn't die because he technically does, but he comes back and he kind of does the loop over and over again. But the thing is, whatever kills him, he basically gains either an ability or protection from the way he died every single time that he does it. So, if you find a way to kill him, you're not going to be able to kill him that way again, is the short version of all that. But this is from Ram. So same as Rare Flavors.
Okay.
I'm seeing more of possibly some of his spiritual background kind of plugging into this, but also kind of some of the character being this. So it's interesting because what's going on here is he dies. The Resurrection Man, he dies. He dies of old age. And he shows up into the gears of the universe. There's a word for it. I'm not spoiling it for you. And meets another dude who says that he's him, but from the future. And his job is to maintain this thing.
Okay.
And so it's the intricate gears basically of the universe and how it functions and everything. And he goes on to basically tell the story of one of the times that he dies as a soldier from the Second World War. But I believe what's going on here is a conscript that got treated incredibly poorly. There were a lot of countries that fought in World War II that conscripted or had parts of their conscripted army that they literally treated as less than human. They were literally meat to the grinder, and some were promised either citizenship or something in the larger country that used them. So there's a little bit of a story there, but he also basically gets shot, blown up, and burned alive. And before he completely collapses, his burning body basically runs around this town and burns the whole place down. So he's also partially responsible for basically burning a city down and killing a bunch of other people that, as the story goes, Allied bombing accidentally did that and are bad. And the book ends there, setting us up for whatever comes next. So here's Chris just telling me, if you enjoyed my journey on Rare Flavors and trying to figure out what the crap was the longer story, but that's obviously there, and there's a lot of very intricate pieces being told, my dude does this stuff extremely well, which is why when I saw that he was writing this, I was like, yep, gonna read it. Probably not gonna understand it, going to need to read it a couple times and absorb what's going on here. And this is that journey. So
Okay.
it's kind of fun to see him doing it with a character that's established in one of the big two's realities, but is still like super obscure.
I was about to say he's established, but he's not
Yeah,
like
but who is this guy?
yeah.
So here for it. It's a pretty interesting journey, and I also have a feeling, much like he did in Rare Flavors, it's going to be sprinkled probably with the edges or entirety of true stories of places in history that he's injected his character, which is super cool.
Okay.
Love it.
Go ahead and do your number one because I'm not technically doing a number one.
I'm
I'm breaking rules. I'm a rebel.
not breaking rules. But this is going to make your head hurt, possibly. Maybe everyone's going to be like, what? Okay. I'm going to read the entire title because it is important.
Never
My
mind.
number one for this week is The Great British Bump Off, Kill or Be Quilt. Quilt. From the lovely purveyors at Dark Horse, we meet a lady who is borrowing her uncle's channel barge for a European getaway for the summer. She meets wonderful people in lovely European towns in her boat. She then jacks up her boat. She thought she had learned all of the things that she was supposed to learn. Her moorline snaps and bad comic book things happen. Damage. Her uncle is never going to forgive her. It's going to cost her a junk load of money to repair the thing. So she needs a summer job like yesterday to repair it before she goes home with it. And her uncle yells at her, right? Well, she meets this guy that's kind of bouncing around, kind of weird, kind of out there doing his whole anti-establishment thing, but whose mom
As one
runs
does.
a quilt shop. Stay with me. Gets a job at the quilt shop, meets a bunch of other folks that work at the quilt shop, finds out that this is not the worst way to spend your summer selling quilting materials and everything. Finds out that quilting is kind of hardcore, especially in Europe. That in America, they even make fun of this. In America, quilts are made of what? It's usually stuff that we find. Like if your mom made you a quilt at any point, and maybe Hector and I are aging ourselves, or I don't know, but they find old stuff of yours from like when you were a kid, and they make you a quilt, and they're like, "Oh, it's your quilt." In Europe, they're like, "What's the fanciest crap I can buy and build a dope quilt?" Like they're like, "This is not sentimental. I'm building a dope quilt." And so they joke about like all the fabrics like super expensive and stuff. And look, if you're in cosplay and you've tried to buy like decent stuff to build things, you already know this. Like,
I'm at Dollar Tree, baby.
yeah. So you walk into like any place like that, you're like, that bolt costs a lot of money. See, I even know some of these terms because whatever. So that's the story set up. At the very end, the kid's mom is like, hired this kind of confused American, but she's actually kind of great. This is going to work out. It's going to be wonderful. She looks out her front window and her car's on fire. And this is the cover for issue number 2. And this is the preview. When wildcat arson hits her new employer right where she lives, Shauna Wickle is drawn into the brutal and vindictive world of quilting. As sisterhood and community needlecraft deteriorate into, let's see, I actually can't say that word. But strife and struggle follow it directly. So with
Because they're curse words or you can't pronounce it.
I actually can't pronounce that word. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Okay, word.
Right. With the promise of an end to all her financial worries, Shauna must cross enemy lines and infiltrate a cadre of monsters in human skin, but they seem so nice. So basically, the quilting world in Europe apparently is really cutthroat and really crazy, and they'll like burn your stuff down. Um, so hence the Great British Bump Off, because some people's gonna die over quilting.
Not the
But wait,
worst.
but wait, there's more. And I think this is why I look at comic book editors and go, well freaking done. Except you, DC, you failed us this week. Um, in the very front of this book is a single square quilt pattern. I am 100% positive there is going to be a different one in every single book.
That's actually really dope.
Right? I was like, I'm here for it. Like, that's just freaking smart.
That's the literal bee's knees.
Like, I was just like, I'm going to have to talk about quilts.
Hey, they did their job.
Yep. You had one job and you did it. Take notes, DC.
All right. Um, so uh my number one for the month is not a number one because I didn't go to a comic book shop and I didn't buy a number one. But it is the first time this book has made it to my polls that I actually enjoyed it.
I'll allow it.
6 issues deep, and
Nope.
it's the
Never
first
mind.
one.
I'm out.
No, 6 issues deep, and it's the first one I enjoyed.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Absolute Superman, 6 issues deep, and it's the first one I enjoyed. And here's one of the things where I think it's not just about retelling old stories. I think it's about the fact that how you do things, because we always complain about Spider-Man reboots and film, TV, stuff like that. One of the things that felt so off about Absolute Superman through this whole story is he not Superman at all. He's got
Right.
like a suit that molds around him and he's running around being a domestic terrorist and all these other things. They finally give you the story of him leaving his planet, of Krypton exploding, of seeing his parents in a ship that's not the one he's on, and they give you the landing in the field in Kansas story
Okay.
and being adopted by Martha and Jonathan briefly.
Why would you say that name?
um but here's the thing, this made that fun. This is the first time out of how much have I spent on this freaking story?
Probably don't read that. don't
Um,
don't do it.
six times five is 30. I've spent $30
Until you got to the one.
on this story, and this is the first time I read a couple panels and said, "This is fun."
This is good.
Like literally, it took me $30 and time because once they rescue Clark, like Martha is just bent on keeping him. And like, check this out. The first time they're trying to put him in the bed, he keeps breaking the bed. He starts levitating. His powers start exploding. And the entire thing is Jonathan trying to keep Martha alive while she's trying to like foster this kid. And it's actually fun to read. Um,
No.
fun to read.
Okay.
And a Superman book that's fun. What? Now,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
was the Superman book like that actually came out this month better than this? Yes. Like the standard Joshua Williamson Superman book, still going through the Lois story, that was still a better Superman book. But these moments were more fun. And I don't feel like it should take 6 issues to get to the fun part of a Superman story.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So that's where I'm at. That's my thoughts. That's it. It's not a number one. Lord willing and the creek don't rise or whatever else. I'll actually go to a
Yeah,
comic book shop this week.
that's a hot take that's worth bringing though, especially because it's been that's one of the only absolutes that a lot of people have just been like,
Nah. Yeah.
so yeah. Well, I guess that's a comic book show.
It's a comic book show.
That's a wrap for the Poll List Podcast. Episode 115 is officially in the books and now in your ears and your eyes. Yep, we're on the
Your
YouTubes
eyes.
now. We have been for a while, but you can see us now. If you're listening to us, you can see us make silly faces while we talk. Check out that YouTube, slam that like and subscribe button, and don't miss a single issue episode.
You don't want to close your eyes.
Yeah, don't do that. As always,
Don't want to go to sleep.
we are absolutely honored to ride this nerdy roller coaster with the rest of the amazing shows over.
Because we'd miss you.
Oh, we would miss you.
And we
But
don't want to miss a thing.
no, not a thing. But you can jump on board with us and all the other amazing shows on the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. We're part of a team. So go ahead and swing by lovethynerd.com to catch previous episodes, grab more geeky goodness, maybe find your next obsession. And as I always say, Hector's 14 other shows, which are also pretty great. And of course, there's other great things over at Love Thy Nerd.
Also,
as well.
if you actually do watch my other shows, my bad. Because I have not had lifetime to get guests and do stuff lately. So I am officially already 2 episodes behind on that other podcast. So
on the other podcast.
forgive me.
Well, if you like D&D and other stuff, there's other cool shows that not Hector does over on Love Thy Nerd, and you can listen to them too. But either way, like and subscribe and give us all the stars for the work that we do here, because that's the only thing
8 out of
get paid in.
5.
That's the only thing we get paid in, and that's how people can find us and enjoy it along with you. So go ahead and do all those wonderful things. But as always, thank you for listening, and remember, kids, read
Read more
comics.
comics.
I'm gonna take all 7 continents